welcome to Sports Time with Chris. I'm your host, Chris, and today I'm going to be going through the 49ers season to this point and talking about where I think they stand, my thoughts on the first half of the season and where they're going to go following this bye week. Obviously, there's no game this week, so there's no preview, and so I wanted to do, reviewing where we are and where the team can go. Along with that, we're going to be doing some more. In general, I'm just going to be focusing on the offense and on the defense. Special teams, we'll see if I touch on the special teams. We all know, well, it's an important part of the team and why they've lost a few games this year. So yeah, I probably should touch on the special teams because just like for the 49ers, I mean, the Niners have neglected their special teams a little bit this year, and that's come back to hurt them. So if I neglect the special teams, it's going to come back to hurt me as well. So we're not going to do that. I'm also going to hand out some midseason awards, just kind of focusing on the offensive MVP, defensive MVP, rookies. We're actually going to have a whole section about the rookie class and how I think it's going to change how rookies are thought of with the 49ers. So stay tuned for that. And then I'm also going to be doing just a brief little breakdown looking at the rest of the NFL and where they're standing, who I think the best teams are and things like that. So yeah, let's get into it. I'm going to try my best to get everything down, everything recorded in one sitting, which is actually pretty rare for me. Usually I have to break it up because just with how my schedule is, it's sort of all over the place. And sometimes I can get 20 minutes done here or 5 minutes done here. And while that method has worked, generally, I find myself forgetting some of the topics and points that I wanted to make. And so hopefully getting this into one continuous episode will work out for me. But yeah, I'm going to list the topics on screen. I have quite a few topics that I want to get to. And so I'm thinking that half of the episode will be focused on the first half of the season. And then the second half of the episode will be focused on the outlook for the team for the rest of the year and also a general NFL outlook. So let's jump right into it. Starting with the offense, I'm just going to list some of the things that, sorry, dog is wearing a collar and making a lot of noise. So for the offense, I think this team has been overall, the offense has been solid for the most part. But the problem with the offense is, of course, the topic that we've talked about, well, that I've talked about and I've seen multiple people mention is the biggest issue is scoring in the red zone. And so let's look up some statistics here. As far as points per game, the Niners are scoring 26.3, which is number 8 in the NFL. I think that's actually pretty solid considering they're not scoring in the red zone. I think that number can jump up once they start figuring that out. I mean, they had a beautiful pick play to George Kittle in this last game against Dallas, and it was really nice to see them actually run a play like that because it seems like a lot of the time in the red zone, Shanahan calls these plays where it's like, there's not a lot of misdirection and causing conflict for defenders. The Chiefs do this all the time where they will run bunch or they'll run like a mesh concept that creates natural picks. And we haven't seen that a lot from the Niners. We see a lot of, everyone's going to run hitches. Everyone, there's 5 hitches on the field. Hopefully one of them gets open. I think that was the play against Kansas City where Chris Conley was like double covered and Brock still threw it and ended up being intercepted. Gosh, that was my dog. I don't know if that's going to get on the mic. It's not getting cut out though. So yeah, looking at this next statistic here, yards per game, 412.4. That's number 2 in the NFL. So obviously that's the main issue. That has been the main issue all year long, is not putting points, not scoring touchdowns in the red zone. Obviously with Christian McCaffrey potentially coming back, that can help. One thing that's been disappointing about the offense is that before Christian McCaffrey came, this team didn't really have that red zone scoring problem. They were able to figure out with Debo or Ayuk or Kittle, and then they had other running backs who could score in the red zone. And the play calling in the red zone has been suspect. Obviously, I think there are a couple of guys that you need to get more involved in the red zone. That's Debo, that's Kittle. You got to use juice, man. I like juice a a lot as a player, but they just don't utilize him enough to, and I've been saying this since the offseason, they don't use Juice enough to justify his salary. He's still the highest paid fullback, but they don't, he goes out there and blocks. He makes maybe one catch a game. I just think they need to find more ways to utilize him, and the red zone is one of those places where they can do that. And I'm hoping that coming out of the bye week, they can figure out some of those red zone issues. Because as soon as they do, this offense can put up, I wonder if is this a statistic I can look up? The 49ers have averaged 2.75 field goals per game played this season. So, 22 field goals. Sorry, I'm looking up stats here. I should have done this before. Okay, I'm not going to be able to find that. But the Niners are averaging just under 3 field goals a game. And I'm wondering how many of those are coming in the red zone or close to the red zone. I mean, think about that. Instantly, you start changing one of those field goals. That's, it's a 4-point swing. And then another field goal that's, instead of 14 points on the board, that's 6 points that they've been giving up this season. It really feels like the Niners are averaging 3 field goals a game, though. So imagine that. If they're, 3 field goals a game instead of 9 points, they're putting up 21 roughly. That's assuming that all extra points are made, and that's not always a gimme apparently. And so that's the main thing, whether they have McCaffrey or not, whether they have Ayuk or not. This team has to figure out how to punch it into the red zone, into the end zone, going into the second half of the season. And Brock, they're on that, going back to the Chris Conley, the play against the Chiefs where Brock threw that pick trying to get it into Chris Conley. The Chiefs ran a very similar defense to what the Niners did when Patrick Mahomes scrambled right up the middle. Only the defensive line for Kansas City did play it a lot better. I think the D tackle slow played it. He might have been spying Brock on that play, but Brock can outrun a defensive tackle. So what I would have liked to see in that situation is Brock sees everyone open, or everyone covered. There's an opening right up the middle of the field I can take. So I want to see some more of that from Brock. I want to see more creative pick plays by Shanahan, stuff that the Chiefs do and get away with all the time. They got away with one against Dallas. I mean, you can get away with some pick plays down there in the red zone. And so I want to see some more of that and just more running the ball in the red zone as well. Like, I don't know if it's the play calling or if defenses are just playing this perfectly, but it seems like every time the Niners run the ball in the red zone, that very first play gets blown up, and then Shanahan doesn't want to run the ball anymore. So maybe call a different run play, or maybe call something that the defense wouldn't be anticipating. I think that to me is poor. I don't know if it's poor execution or if it's poor game planning by Kyle, but that's something that needs to be addressed going into the second half of the season. Let's see what other statistics we can pull up here. Third down conversion percentage, they're number 6 in the NFL at 43.3, and I think that's really good. I'm curious to see, like, when they don't convert on third down, is it because they're behind the sticks? It seems like every time the Niners get behind the sticks, they have a holding penalty, they have a sack or a play that goes backwards. Whenever something like that happens, the Niners struggle to get another first down. They struggle to score on that drive, even if they convert a third down. For some reason, that really messes with their flow. Touchdowns per game, 2.6, which is number 13 in the NFL. I could easily see that jumping up to at least 3, maybe 3.5. Once this offense starts clicking, I mean, they really did a good job in the third quarter against Dallas. That was the first time that the Niners looked like the Niners. And so getting that more consistently is going to be, this offense is going to be hard to stop, whether they have McCaffrey or not. And I think they've seen enough without McCaffrey where if he does return, they don't have to overuse him. They have Mason. They know Mason is a guy. I mean, I think Mason is still number 3 rushing in the NFL at this point, and he has been dealing with a shoulder injury. Guerrero went in there and did his thing against Dallas. Now, Dallas does have one of the weakest rush defenses in the NFL, but Guerrero still did what he was supposed to. So seeing those two younger guys get opportunities, Shanahan knows what he has in them. So when McCaffrey comes back, he doesn't have to run him into the ground again. He can rest McCaffrey. Maybe he just uses, I'll talk about how I want McCaffrey used when he comes back, but he could be used in the third down situations. He can be used in in you got to have it situations down in the red zone. And then you can rely on the other two backs the majority of the time. Now, of course, I know McCaffrey is the offensive player of the year, so there's a reason why the offense has gone down a little bit without him. But still, if Kyle is an offensive genius and a guru like they say he is, I don't think he has to rely on one single player to make all the difference in the world. Shanahan's got to figure it out with his personnel that he's got. Chiefs have done it this season. They're still undefeated, and Patrick Mahomes is arguably playing the worst football of his career. And still, obviously, Brock is not Patrick Mahomes, but he's been playing overall better than Mahomes this season. Okay, going into, I was just mentioning the running backs a little bit. Let's jump into the rushing statistics for the Niners. 5.1 yards per rush. That's pretty good. That's number 4 in the NFL. Theoretically, you could run the ball every play and get a first down every other play. So I think that's really, really good. They average 31 rushes a game, which is number 7. I know Shanahan always wants to try to hit 40. At least he did in the past. So I didn't realize it was that high. It doesn't seem that high. Just watching the games, it seems like there's been a lot more passing. And we'll get into that, I guess, here in a second. Rush yards per game, 159 is number 4. And rush touchdowns per game is 1.1 rush touchdowns per game, which is number 11. Obviously this team has had to rely on Mason and Garendo the majority of the season. A little bit of Debo. And I think a lot of this rushing success that they've had is because of, two guys in general. The left side of the line has been great the last few years, but the right side this season has been greatly improved. Starting with the guy that's been here, they extended him in the offseason. A lot of people were upset because, and I'll admit, I was in this group. I thought he was not good at all. Colton McKivitz has really stepped it up this year. He's been really, really solid for this team. And he's always been a good run blocker, where his struggles have mostly been in the passing game. But the guy beside him, Dominic Pooney, I think that has been all the difference in the world for this rushing attack, because now they're able to not only run it to the left side, they can now run it to the right side. And that is big. Obviously, when a team can key on you running to one side, it's a lot easier to stop the run. And now with the ability to go to both sides, they have to, respect both sides a little bit more. They can't just key on, go onto one side. And overall, these rushing statistics are not surprising. The one area that I think can be improved, of course, is the rushing touchdowns per game. Of course, McCaffrey will help with that, but they could easily step this number up. 1.1 rush touchdowns per game, with Mason, Purdy running the ball, Debo running the ball. I want to see Cowing get some end arounds and jet sweeps. I think that number could definitely go up in the second half of the season. What I'm really hoping for from Shanahan, and I'll get into this later, is that we're going to see an evolution of the offense from the first half of the season to the second half of the season. And historically, Shanahan coming out of the bye week has been really, really good. I think he has like a 66% win percentage or something like that coming off a bye week. So we may have yet to see the best of this offense. That could be coming up here shortly. And one thing about Shanahan, and this is what gives me hope for this offense going forward, is that he is really big on building things up. It's like an orchestra. You start with this bass melody or tune that gradually builds up, and then you start adding different instruments. You start adding crescendos and different things like that. And that's what Shanahan is known for. He does it in game. He shows you one thing, he can give you a different look and do the exact same thing, and then in the second half, he'll show you the exact same thing and then run something different out of it. And so with Shanahan being that kind of play caller, where you're building something up from the base, and then as you grow and grow, things will start changing. It's very different from what the Lions are doing this season. Ben Johnson had a quote recently where he said something along the lines of, "We're not afraid to show you our best plays because, we're going to be able to adjust those plays to as the defense adjusts." Essentially what he's saying is, we're not afraid to show you this. They've been running some crazy trick plays. We're not afraid to show that because there is something that can be built off that play. Shanahan is very much the opposite, where he doesn't want to show you his best plays because he wants to build up to them. And Shanahan does get a little bit more creative in November, December playoff football. So that's one thing that gives me hope. I think he'll get a little bit more creative in the running game and in the passing game, and we might start seeing some some more Debo jet sweeps, cowing jet sweeps, things that we haven't seen a ton of that have been staples in the Shanahan offense as of recently. So I'm excited for that. Let's get into the passing game. Okay, completion percentage 64.46 at number 16 in the league. Yards per pass 8.7, which is number 3. One thing that has been interesting to see this year is the stark difference in the passing for Shanahan's offense. A lot of in the past, this passing attack relied a lot on yards after catch, throwing short and then guys breaking tackles and going downfield. This year it's been a lot of deep throws, and so it's crazy to see how a team just 1 year apart can do something completely different on offense and still have one of the top yards per pass averages in the NFL. They average 30.3 passes per game, which is number 21. Again, they want to run the ball, and it's crazy because when we're watching games, it feels like Shanahan is calling a lot of pass plays, but apparently it's not as much as it appears to be. Teams are throwing a lot more than the Niners. So, and even though they only throw it, they are number 21 in passes per game, they're number 4 in pass yards per game at 253.4. So even though they're not throwing as much as other teams, they're still leading the league in pass yards. Now they're not number 1, but they're up there. They're right in the top 5. And so this offense, I'm telling you, once they can start figuring out how to score touchdowns, things can look very, very different. And it is going to be a little bit harder, obviously, losing Ayuk. But we've seen some flashes from Pearsall. I think he's going to be solid get for this Niners offense. And once he gets his timing down with Brock, that's going to look like a real duo there. Debo has been doing this thing. Juwan Jennings has been injured the last few weeks, so hopefully he can get right and get healed up, use this bye week, and come back strong against Tampa Bay. Because Juwan, obviously he had that breakout game, and he can be a real threat as well. Cowing, I think, can be a weapon. They can use cowing a lot of screen passes, a lot of things that we just haven't seen a lot of from the Niners. But there's one guy who I'm going to talk about a little bit later who I think really sparks the offense passing attack, and that's George Kittle. He was the leading receiver last week against Dallas on National Tight Ends Day, of course. I think Kittle is going to be the catalyst for this passing attack going forward. He's the one guy who he knows the offense like the back of his hand, right? And Brock, the quarterbacks talk about how important a security blanket like a tight end is, and Brock has one of the best in the league. So I think a lot of what we're going to see going forward is going to involve Kittle. He's going to be the main focus for this offense, and I think he should be. Now, all in all, when I look at the offense, there is obviously the one big thing, which is red zone scoring, which I've harped on enough in this episode. Besides that, man, I think shooting themselves in the foot has also been an issue. We saw that against Dallas. I think I talked about that in my analysis of the Dallas game, is that the Niners didn't shoot themselves in the foot, commit penalties, holding penalties, a holding penalty on Debo's touchdown, which I'm still mad about because that was such a good play. They can clean some of that stuff up. This offense can start doing some really special things, I think, whether they have McCaffrey or not. McCaffrey will help. Hopefully he's going to look like the McCaffrey we all know and love, the offensive player of the year, but I think it's tough to expect that from a guy that's dealing with 2 bad Achilles. But we'll see. We'll see what that looks like going forward. Overall, I have a lot of hope for this offense. And I think Brock is made up of the right things. I don't think he's had the season that he's wanted to. I think highly of Brock. So I wouldn't say he's been disappointing. He's left a little to be desired. And knowing the kind of player that Brock is, how hard he works, how hard he is on himself, and how bad he wants to improve, I think we're going to see Brock get better as the season goes on. And we're going to talk about him more a little bit later. So yeah, let's go here. We're going to transition over to the defense, start talking about what they've done this season defensively. I really think this defense has played overall decently. They're not the dominant defense that we've seen in the past, and I think this comes down to just a few issues, and those issues have been the lack of pass rush. Well, the defensive line in general, that includes running, but especially in passing situations, a lack of pass rush. Linebacker, besides Fred Warner, Linebacker play hasn't been up to par. Campbell, he looked pretty good against Dallas, I will say that. But the rest of the season, Devondre Campbell has been disappointing. He's looked pretty slow and just not getting it done for the Niners. And I think the secondary has been a little up and down. They've had some guys who look awesome in the secondary. Mustafa has looked solid. He's a hard hitter. Lenore is having an awesome year. Charvarius Ward has looked, I think he's been dealing with some injuries, so he hasn't looked quite like himself. And obviously we'll see, Charvarius should take as much time as he needs away from football to, take care of himself and his family. So we'll see. I have no idea what's going to happen with Charvarius, but Renardo Green, I think, has looked really good. I think he should be the number 3 cornerback. And if Ward is gone for some time, then I think he should be the number 2 with Lenore. Yadam has, I think, improved throughout the season, but he was definitely the one that teams were picking on for a while. Especially, there were a few games where teams were really going after Isaac Yadam, and so that's one area where I want to see some improvement. Let's see who else. Covering bunches and formations where teams are putting defenders in conflict, that has been an issue. Obviously, there were a few blown coverages against Dallas. I think the first one, it was just a really, really bad miscommunication that they need to figure out going forward in 2-minute situations where one side of the defense thought they were in zone and the other side thought they were in man, and so that left one guy wide open. That is something that needs to be addressed and cleaned up immediately. That is unacceptable. You got to be able to communicate on defense. And then Jair Brown he's had some flashes. Obviously, he intercepted Dak. He's second-year player, hasn't lived up to the hype that he had last year. I think he is someone that needs to step up going into the second half of the season, and that's ultimately where this team's issues have been. They've also allowed running backs, like old running backs, to run. So tackling, having sure tackles and not just arm tackles. That's been a really big issue for this team as well, defensively. So let's talk about their overall ranks. The points per game given up, 22.8, which is number 17, right in the middle of the pack. I'm going to talk about what needs this team might have at the trade deadline, and it's definitely, in my opinion, the defensive line. They have not been great against the run and cannot get pressure on quarterbacks, just the 4 of them. Bosa's done decently, but it's just one guy out there, and Bosa's also been a little underwhelming. Watching Steelers games, watching what TJ Watt does, he's just insane. Like, when they need a play, he's going to be there, and Bosa can be that kind of player, but he has not shown that this year. Guy that can go in there and just create and just wreak havoc on every play. Opponent yards per game, 314.8, which is number 10. Again, I think they can improve on that. It all comes back to the defensive line for me. Yards per play, they're giving up 5.3 yards per play, so that's obviously not ideal. You can run 2 plays and have a first down. Opponent third down conversion. Now, this has been another big issue for the Niners. They're sitting at 44.12%, which is number 26th in the NFL, and that is something you see on the TV version. It's third down, you just got to get a stop, and it seems like every time the defense or the offense is able to go out there and get a first down in one way or another. And so obviously that forces the defense to stay on the field. It makes guys be a little bit more tired. And so that's one area where they need to step up. And like I said, it comes down to the defensive line. They don't get pressure. They give quarterbacks enough time to go out there and throw to open guys or make plays on their own with their feet. So let's see. Let's go to the rushing defense. Offenses are averaging 105.8 rush yards per game against the defense. It's number 6 in the NFL. So I think that's the thing about that is the defense is doing a good job in the first part of the game, stopping the run. We saw that against Kansas City, not so much against Dallas, but in the second half of that Chiefs game, Kareem Hunt just went crazy. It seemed like he was getting 5-6 yards a play and constantly getting first downs, and that wears down a defense. So even though they're ranked number 6 against the rush, I'd be interested to see what the first and second half statistics are for that. It really feels like they're giving up a lot of rush yards in the second half of the game where they really don't need to. And then Arizona, that was the case against Arizona with James Conner. Shut him down in the first half. Second half, totally different story. Okay, defense. Passing defense. Completion percentage, 61.92%, which is number 7 in the NFL. I mean, the secondary has played really well. And Nick Bosa getting pressures, while they're not as good as sacks, sometimes they can be really, really good and effective. I think that's had a lot to do with why quarterbacks are missing on passes. They're averaging 209 yards per game, which is about middle of the road. Opponents' interceptions thrown percentage, 3.85, which is number 2 in the NFL. This defense has had quite a few interceptions. Was that 2 against Dak Prescott? One of them was a beautiful play by Lenore. He knew exactly what Dallas was running and essentially ran the play for him. And Dak threw it right to him too. And then sack percentage, they're at 7.14%, which is number 15 in the NFL. And in my opinion, this is an area where they can even get better. Like I said, just pass rush has been really non-existent. Quarterbacks seem to be able to stand back there, and even when one guy gets pressure, they are able to bail out and go out and find someone. So if this defensive line can start getting home or start making plays themselves, then I think that's going to greatly improve what this defense does. It's going to get offenses off the field. It's going to give their offense the ball back, and obviously time of possession, the more times you have the ball, especially with this Niners offense that has shown that they can move the ball, that is a recipe for winning football games. And so that's really the key, is being able to slow down the run, apply pressure in third down situations, and getting out of third down situations. If they can do that, this defense can potentially really help this offense. And of course, they're playing some good teams coming up, but I think this defense does have the players to get it done overall. Could they use another guy here and there? Yes. Will the return of Drake Greenlaw help? Yeah, I think so. Even if Drake Greenlaw is 75%, I still think he'd be better than Devondre Campbell. So yeah, I think like I said, the defense has played fine. They're not the dominant defense that this team has had before. If they can tweak a few things and start getting home with the defensive line, then I think we could start having a different conversation about this defense. But until we see that, they're just kind of an average defense. Of course, the one unit that I wish I didn't have to talk about, but here I am talking about, is the special teams. Now, they had a good game against Dallas, where Dallas really kind of shot themselves in the foot, but the special teams has had a few plays, it seems like, per game where they make a mistake and it ends up costing the 49ers in the end. And when they don't have those mistakes, then things go well. I think the return of Jake Moody is a lot more important than we may anticipate. Anders Carlson has been a fine field goal kicker, but he doesn't put it into the end zone like Jake Moody can. Jake Moody can boot it out of the end zone, can make it so that guys don't even have a chance to return kickoffs, and I think that's going to be really key going forward. I think once Moody's back, you just have him kick it out of the end zone. Just go for touchbacks. Team starts at the 30 because this Niners special teams, they overall stop guys right around the 30 anyway, so it's not like that's much of a difference. And then when they don't, they're giving up huge plays. So that is one area where I just want to see things really cleaned up. Just clean, good all special teams. It is one of the least, it is not the, sexiest thing in football, but it is really important. And one or two special teams plays a game can make all the difference, as crazy as that sounds. And Shanahan has said that. He's like, what did he say? He's like, there's 10% of the plays are special teams or something like that. So he's not too concerned about it. But just like Shanahan, if you don't put enough thought into special teams, then things will start to go awry. And we've seen that multiple times. Maybe this season is what Shanahan has needed to open his eyes to how important special teams actually is. Because there's not very many plays a game, and overall they're not very exciting, or they're not crazy plays. They're usually just it's a kickoff and a return, or it's a punt and a return. But when things go bad, they can go really bad. Momentum can swing fast. Point differentials can swing really, really fast. And so for me, I just want to see the special teams cleaned up and literally just play clean football. Now, you're going to have a return here and there that goes far. There are teams that have talented returners and very athletic guys, but I just don't want to see the dumb special teams plays where your kicker gets hurt and then your backup kicker gets hurt. So you're down to your number 3 option at kicker. That is just bizarre, and luckily it hasn't killed the Niners at this point. Now, Anders Carlson did miss an extra point against Kansas City, which may have made a big difference. But, hopefully Jake Moody comes back. And hopefully the Niners stop settling for field goals anyway, so that kicker isn't an issue when it comes to scoring. So I think it's enough breaking down the team where it stands currently. And I want to get into why I think this rookie class is going to change things forever for Kyle Shanahan, and get into some midseason team awards. So this rookie class has been unbelievable, and they have had to step up because of injuries, because they're the best at their position, and that is really huge, I think, for Kyle Shanahan especially. He is someone that is known to not really play rookies in their first season, sometimes not even in their second season. He says they're not ready, and it takes them a while to get ready. But every single rookie, besides one or two, have had significant roles this season. And I think this is going to change how Kyle Shanahan deals with them. He might be more willing to play rookies in the future and actually go, not have them sit and wait several years before they see the field. Because for a long time I said there's no point in the Niners having draft picks, because they either take way too long developing their rookies, they don't give them enough of a chance, or they just straight up miss on their rookies. But this year they have hit on pretty much all of them. So Ricky Pearsall, we're going to just go round by round. Ricky Pearsall was their round 1 pick, and he got shot. Obviously he was out for a while. He's played in 2 games so far, and in the first game, it was his first game. Like, he had been practicing for a week, so you couldn't really expect much from him. He didn't do very much. He didn't do too much in this last game against Dallas either, but he showed some flashes, and he had that big 39-yard run where he showed speed. He was able to set up some blockers and show patience, and just things that seem, some rookies don't get that right away, and he was following his blockers for as long as he could. So I think Ricky Pearsall is going to be, he's going to have to step up with Brandon Ayuk being gone. Hopefully Juwan Jennings will be back soon, but I really am starting to like Ricky Pearsall a little bit more, and some of these other rookies they picked this year have helped me with that, because I was a little skeptical at first. But the round 2 guy, Renardo Green, he, I think, is the top rated PFF cornerback on the Niners, and one of the top rated rookie defenders by PFF. So, PFF has interesting ratings sometimes. I don't know how much you can count on them, but I've been saying since the beginning they need to start Renardo Green. I thought Yadam would be a decent guy, but after a few weeks it became obvious that he isn't. So I think Renardo Green is going to play a big role going forward for this team. He has been a hit so far. Obviously we'll see what happens with Charvarius Ward, if he's back anytime soon or not. If not, then I think Renardo Green can step up and play a big role for this defense. Dominic Pooney, he's a round 3 pick for the Niners, and he has been awesome. He is the whole reason why this Niners offensive line can run to the right side. He's absolutely stepped up that right side of the line, and also Colton McKivitz has improved significantly as well, so that helps. But Pooney, another hit. Malik Mustafa, he's had to come in with Hufanga being injured, and then George Odom is George Odom. So Mustafa going in there, and he just is a wrecking ball on defense. He flies in. He's almost like an old school safety, like an Ed Reed, or one of those guys that just flies up and destroys people. He's had I think an interception. He's made a few good pass breakups. Obviously he's had a few hiccups here and there. That's expected of a rookie, but still, I think he's a hit as well. Isaac Guerendo, I'm not going to say he's a hit yet. I think he has been solid up to this point. Obviously, he had to step up against the Cowboys with Mason going down, but I was really excited to see him as a kick returner. We haven't seen too much of that, probably because he's had to take on the role of running back on the offense, and with McCaffrey coming back, potentially Mason being healthy, Guerendo's role on the offense may take a little bit of a hit, but he's got such good speed that I think they can use on kick returns. Maybe not on punt returns, because punt return is a little bit different than kick return. Kick return, you can get a running start, you can hit your speed a little bit sooner than punt returns. So I like Cowing in the punt return role, which he's another 4th round pick by the Niners. And I think the thing is with Guerendo and Cowing, they're not hits yet. I think they can get there, but they just haven't done quite enough. And Cowing, I think, deserves more opportunities on the offense. He has shown really good speed. He had that big catch against the Chiefs, and he's a guy you can use on jet sweeps, end arounds, screens, and I think he can be really solid as well. They just need to give him more of a chance, because if Pearsall is out there getting a shot, then I think Cowing is capable of that as well, because he didn't miss the first 6 weeks of the season. Jarrett Kingston is gone, so that was a miss. They didn't have a 5th round pick. He was a 6th round pick, so 5th, 6th round picks gone. And then Tatum Bethune, he hasn't done too much. Yeah, he hasn't really stood out to me. So he's a guy that is still developing, I think. But man, and then some other unsigned guys as well have really... Now, the one guy they didn't draft who has been given a significant role due to injuries is Evan Anderson. I think he's been really solid too. And sometimes those undrafted gets by the Niners are some of their best. And I really think that this draft class, with how, they've come in and they've... Obviously, when rookies come in, anyone who's on the field in the NFL on a good team, you expect the guys, the second stringers, backups, whatever you want to call them, if they have to step up, you expect them to have to step up and, maybe not play as well as the starters, but play well enough that they're not costing the team. And I think these rookies have actually gone a step above that, where they're, Pooney is making an impact. Mustafa is making an impact. Pearsall, we'll see. He just hasn't played enough. We don't know. He's had flashes, for sure. Garendo had a solid game. Even if he's not the number one guy, I would feel really good with Garendo as the number 3 running back behind McCaffrey and Mason. I feel really good about that. So, and Shanahan has, especially on offense, Shanahan has been hesitant to play rookies, like I said, and he's had to start receivers and he's had to start running backs and right guard. That's where I think this rookie class is going to impact Shanahan. Like I said, it can completely change the way he views rookies, and it might give him it might encourage him to do so more in the future. And a lot of people are saying that this is the Niners Super Bowl window, and a lot of their old vets are going to have to move on or be traded. And if that is the case, they're going to have to rely on a lot of rookies and a lot of young guys. And Shanahan's going to have to accept that, be comfortable with it, and maybe adjust his system so that it's more rookie friendly, or so that they're more streamlined to hit the field and be ready to play on Sunday. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the rookie class. And I think Pearsall, going into the second half of the season, Pearsall's going to play a significant role going forward, and I'm excited for it. I think he can be a solid guy, and I hope some of the other rookies get more opportunities as well. So now we're going to go into some mid-season awards. We're just going to go through a couple basic ones, nothing too crazy. The team MVP on offense for me is George Kittle. George Kittle is a guy who I think has been extremely underutilized the last few seasons. He is the guy that has been here since 2017. He is a tight end, and tight ends are such weapons for quarterbacks. They are often referred to as their security blankets, and a lot of the big time successful quarterbacks have had a very solid tight end. Brady had Gronk in Tampa Bay and New England. Now, he didn't have him his whole time in New England, but the last part of his tenure with New England, he did. Mahomes has Kelsey. Peyton Manning had Dallas Clark. Drew Brees had Jimmy Graham for a while. I thought he had another tight end too. I'm trying to think. But George Kittle, he's been playing through some injuries this year, and he has been the consistent spark that this offense needs. A lot of the other guys on offense have been injured, and George Kittle, even through injury, has stepped up. He's a leader on this team, and for me, he is the offensive MVP, and I think they need to keep utilizing him more. He was severely underutilized all of last season, the year before. In the Super Bowl, he wasn't utilized at all, and he's got to, I think, in my opinion, Kittle's got to be the number one option on this offense just going forward. And I know that might sound crazy with Debo and McCaffrey. I think George Kittle, if you can get him, if he's number one, then I'm okay with Debo and McCaffrey being number 2. Defenses that are going to have to focus on Kittle, and then it's going to open up other guys. So that's why he's my MVP. He has been solid in all aspects of the offense, catching and then running, catching, blocking, he does everything. And Shanahan needs to keep using him going forward. And Purdy needs to, in the red zone, he's been the guy. Purdy's got to continue going to Kittle. The defensive MVP, this I think is going to be pretty obvious, but Fred Warner Fred has been playing out of his mind. I think he has 4 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions, ton of tackles. Like, I should have probably looked up their stats, but Fred every week is the most consistent player on that defense. Bosa is supposed to be the guy that makes the game-changing plays, and he hasn't quite lived up to that the last couple of seasons. And this season, Warner has made his fair amount of game-changing plays, and that doesn't just mean interceptions and forced fumbles. I mean, those are game-changing plays, but I mean getting those tackles when you need it, getting a deflection when you need it, or a sack. Fred Warner has been that guy, and he's been just a beast this year, and that's why he is the defensive MVP for me. The offensive rookie of the year, again, this one I think is pretty obvious. It's Dominic Pooney. He came in and immediately started at right guard for the Niners. He has opened up the right side of the running for the 49ers. They're able to run to the right side now, which in previous seasons they have gone away from because they haven't been able to rely on that. And it isn't just Pooney. Colton McKivitz has also stepped up, so you got to give credit to him where it's due. And Pooney has just given this offensive line, this is where I wish the Niners would have invested some more draft picks or free agency money in, is the offensive line. Pooney was an upgrade, and if they could have upgraded at probably center, then this offensive line would be really, really solid. One of the best in the NFL. Right now, I think they're probably, middle of the pack to top 10 if I were to rank them. But anyway, that's not about the offensive line. Pooney has made such a big impact already, and he's going to be a solid get for the Niners going into the future. And then the defensive rookie of the mid-season so far, I have to give it to Malik Mustafa. He's just an impactful player. He hits hard. He doesn't just do stuff in the running game or in the passing game. He is able to actually tackle with force. He has made plays in the passing game with some pass breakups, an interception, and he has been extremely solid. I wish he would have hit Mahomes a little bit harder on that sideline play that Mahomes scrambled on, or when Mahomes ran up the middle into the end zone. I wish he wouldn't have gotten laid out by him, but he's a solid guy, and he's going to be a starter for a long time for this Niners team. Okay, so now I really want to get into the second half outlook for the 49ers. Let's see, where should we start? Okay, I was going to start somewhere else, but we're actually going to go with this here. Should the 49ers make a trade before the deadline? So when I'm recording this, it's Monday before the trade deadline, so tomorrow, I believe, is the final day for that. And I think the Niners do need to be smart about what kind of trade they make. If they are going to make a move, I think there are a few places where they can use some help. And first and foremost is the defensive line. They haven't played up to snuff this year. They have struggled in the running game. Their pass rush is non-existent. And so, it's tough because I think two trades is a lot. So if you can get one impactful trade where you can bring a guy in who can help with both, then that's a move that you can make and maybe get a rental for a year. I saw the idea of Chase Young coming back. That would be I would not want to do that, but there are some teams like the Saints that could be sellers at the trade deadline. And so I don't know what the Niners need more. If they need a run defender more or a pass rusher more. In my opinion, I think pass rusher would have the most impact because the Niners have gotten into, that's where the Niners really struggle, is third downs. They cannot get off the field, and that's a passing situation most of the time. So having another pass rusher, whether that's an interior guy or an edge guy, I don't know, but I would just like someone that could come in and help with the pass rush in those situations because that's been a major issue. And then when the defense can't get off the field, they get tired and then they can get run on and then they let teams back into games. So that's where I really want to see a move made. I think that's the number one priority. Obviously, you don't want a guy that's going to impact your future too much. So you want to be smart with what kind of player you trade for. And yeah, that's the number one place. I think number two, I'm going to have to say wide receiver. The only reason why I'm saying that is because I think the offensive line actually needs help more. But with this Kyle Shanahan system, unless you're able to get someone who's familiar with that system already, the center does everything. They set the protections. They have to know this complicated offense that Shanahan runs. And I think it's way too much to ask a guy to come in halfway through the season and completely learn that system, completely learn how to set the protections the way they want to. And while I think, if they can get a guy that can come in and do that, then that's great. Then that is the number 2 priority, but I just don't think that's very realistic. And so I'm going to have to say receiver is the second priority just because they lost Ayuk. Jennings has been injured. Debo has dealt with injuries as well. And this is the only other spot that really makes sense to make a trade. And I think you go for a guy who can play an X position. I thought Deontay Johnson was going to be a solid potential get for the Niners, but obviously that didn't work out. So one guy that I think could actually that could make some sense is Darius Slayton from the New York Giants. I really like Darius Slayton's game, and I don't think he's he's a solid receiver, and in this system, I think he can, put up some good production. And, you're not going to go out and get a guy like the Bills did with Amari Cooper, although that was a rumor earlier in the year, because you already have traded, you've signed 2 receivers to extensions. And so you're going to get another rental at your receiver position. You just are. And even Juwan Jennings. So like Debo, Ayuk, and Juwan Jennings have all signed extensions with this team. And so that's where I just want to see another solid receiver that can come in. And Conley hasn't been it. But yeah, I think Slayton could be another potential receiver to target. That's what I want to see, honestly. Besides that, I don't know any other moves this team could make to get any better. You just don't know with Dre Greenlaw when he returns, if he returns, how he's going to look. I think linebacker, that's a move you probably should have made before the season in free agency, because Greenlaw is going to be a free agent after this year anyway, so we'll see how the Niners feel about re-signing him to a long-term extension after this year. But that's something in the future. That's something we don't have to worry about. But yeah, I think those are the only really moves that I would want to see in the trade deadline. Maybe 1 or 2 trades, nothing splashy. I don't think that's going to help the Niners at all. So just a couple, go get a couple solid guys, nothing crazy. Okay, we're down to just a couple more topics. I wanted to talk a little bit more about the NFL in general, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get to that. It's been a pretty crazy weekend, and I haven't been able to record as much as I wanted to, unfortunately. So we're just going to be talking Niners today. NFL season. If I have some time during the week, maybe I'll do an NFL season, just a general outlook of the season and how things are going for the whole league. But for this episode, I think we're just going to stick with the Niners for now. And the next topic is if this team is a playoff team. I think they can be. However, it is going to be an uphill battle being 4-4. There are a lot of good teams in the NFC this year. And I don't think at 4-4, you don't have much room for error, for the 49ers. And so what I'm trying to say with that is that this isn't going to be a wild card team. It's going to be an uphill battle to be a wild card team. The best shot this team has is to win a division. Now, all the teams are sitting right around, the Cardinals are, I think, 5-4, Seahawks 4-5, Rams 4-4, they're all right there. And the Niners have lost 2 head-to-head matchups with some divisional opponents. So they're going to have to, it's going to be a fight. You can't afford to lose a lot of games, especially in the division and in the NFC. And, luckily for the Niners, they're all right around that same area. However, the Rams are looking really solid. They have a Hall of Fame quarterback in Matthew Stafford. They just got Puka Nacua back and Cooper Kupp. So they are always going to be a threat. The Seahawks surprisingly have stumbled a little bit, but I still think they're a worthy foe, and the Niners can't take them lightly. And then the Cardinals are looking really solid as well. So, when I look at this schedule going forward, I think the Buccaneers you can beat. They lost. They're playing on a short week because they play tonight, but then they also lost. They're not going to have Mike Evans probably, and Chris Godwin is done. So those are their 2 big weapons. The Seahawks, I'm not going to write that in as a win right away, even though the Niners have had their number. It's a divisional game, and divisional games can always be a little weird. So I do think they will win, but I'm not going to say it's like an automatic win. It's not like, oh yeah, that's definitely a dub. It can be a close one. The Packers are going to be a tough game, especially playing in Lambeau in the cold. Bills are going to be tough. So the Bears are surprisingly tough as well. And the Rams, tough. This 6-game stretch here is going to be quite a stretch. They can easily go 4-2 or 2-4. more. I mean, there's not much room for error. And then the Dolphins, Lions, and Cardinals. I mean, Dolphins offense is, they're potent, but their defense is not very good. It's going to be a tough schedule. And I think if this 49ers offense and, well, team as a whole can stop shooting themselves in the foot, start finishing in the red zone, and get into a flow and get the rookies, get the young guys on offense to step up, then yeah, I think this is a playoff team. And I think they have the most experience out of the NFC West, besides maybe the Rams. When it comes to these, November, December stretches, the Rams are always feisty. They're always fighting, get in. And I mean, the best case scenario is the Niners win the division. And the worst case scenario is they just fall short of the wild card, because there are a lot of really good NFC teams fighting for wild card spots. And a lot of them only have 2 losses at the moment. So... And then Brock, I think Brock's got to go back to being Brock. I have a lot of faith in Brock. I think he is a really, really solid quarterback and player in general. And we saw him do what he should be doing against the Cowboys. He was just finding ways to make plays, whether that's through the air or with his legs. And when Brock is able to do that, that's when he's at his best. And I don't want to see him turn into a robot like other quarterbacks have before. And I think one thing that Shanahan does really well is he does come out of the bye week with some new stuff, comes out and builds on things he did in the first half of the season. And I think there's going to be new evolution to this offense. Something that I noticed from week 1 when they were going with more spread out, 3 receiver looks. I think we're going to see more of that in the second half of the season. We're going to see a more aggressive 49ers offense. We're going to see a team that goes out there and shows that they're the best offense in the NFL. And then defensively, if they can start finding their pass rush, then I think that's going to completely change everything for this team, because they've been so solid, except when they get to those third down situations, it seems like they always give it up. And so finding their pass rush, going back to who they are, is going to be huge. And if they can do those things, both offensively and defensively, then I can absolutely see this being a playoff team and making a run. Now I'm going to go ahead and say a couple of things, maybe controversial, but with Christian McCaffrey potentially returning, I just don't want to see him run into the ground like before. He's dealing with Achilles tendonitis in both legs, which is extremely scary. And so using him like a workhorse running back, I don't think is going to be the case. I think Jordan Mason should continue to be that main running back, with McCaffrey coming in third down situations, red zone, gotta have it situations. All those situations are when I think CMC should be in the game. Yes, he's the reigning offensive player of the year. He received MVP votes last year, and he is a solid player. I just don't think they need to use him all that much. I think they can win without him, or win with him playing just limited roles as well. They just cannot afford to run him into the ground like they have in the past. So if they do that, if they utilize him correctly and save him from himself, save him from a catastrophic injury, then I think he's going to play a solid role in the second half of the season as well. I don't know if I highly doubt Greenlaw is going to be back for a while. And if he is, I don't think he's going to play like the Greenlaw we all know. He could still be a solid upgrade from Devondre Campbell. I don't know. Those Achilles injuries, man, they can really mess with you. And a lot of times when, you have one side go out, the other side has had to make up for it. There's a little bit more wear on the opposite side. And I would hate to see something like that happen to Greenlaw, where he ends up having another major injury on the other side of his leg. So hopefully he's able to be back at 100%. But I think we just need to rein in our hopes of what those two guys are going to be. I don't think McCaffrey is going to be that fantasy running back that everyone was hoping he would be this year, just because if the Niners are smart, unless he is medically cleared, somehow those micro tears in his Achilles have healed themselves, then maybe they can go back to using him the way they have. But I just don't think it's smart to do that. I think the Niners need to save him from himself, and they paid him a lot of guaranteed money as well. So I'm reining in my expectations for those two guys. I think the team should as well, and other fans should rein in their hope. Are they going to help? Yes, absolutely. If they are back in any capacity, they will definitely help. Even if it's just from a mental, emotional side, I think that would be huge for this team. But on the field, I don't know how impactful they will be. And that's going to wrap it up for my mid-season 49ers analysis. I know I said earlier in the episode that I would be doing the NFL in general as a whole whole, but yeah, I thought I was going to be able to record everything I think I recorded the first half on Friday, and then I just did not have time to do anything else since then. So here I am Monday morning, definitely later than I wanted to get this done. I'm hoping I can get this uploaded and live by tonight, but if not, it's going to be tomorrow morning, which is Tuesday. And let me know what you think. How have the Niners been this season? Have they met your expectations? Are they below your expectations? Do you think they can make a run? Are they going to be a playoff team? Is there any hope for a wild card spot? Is there any hope for a number 1 seed? Probably not. Lions are looking like the best team in football. But yeah, let me know what you think. What do you think about my midseason awards? Let me know. And as always, thank you for listening. I appreciate every single one of you who took the time to listen to this podcast today. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. I want to continue to keep growing this channel and get my 49ers takes out there. So once again, thank you as always. This has been Sports Time with Chris.